Well, I have a special pleasure this afternoon to introduce not only former Mayor Richard Steffens, but he is also my husband. And so he's been warned that he better be good.
I'll be good.
Okay. Richard Steffens, as a lifelong resident of Secaucus, tell us what you remember about the original library and your first hero, Mrs. Dudley, and also what your relationship was with Margaret Grazioli, the director of the Plaza Center Library.
Well, my first answer would be my relationship with Mrs. Dudley, and Margaret came many years later. But Mrs. Dudley, I think, I know she's just a special person, and I think in my heart that she never got the credit that she actually deserved, not as a librarian, but as a teacher. So you might say to me, what do you mean by a teacher? Excuse me. Well, she had a way about her that she could reach you. She could reach any individual and make them feel important and make them feel that you would want to learn. The best example I could give you, when I was in junior high school, I was given an assignment, and the assignment was the life of Sir Winston Churchill. Sir Winston Churchill, you're 14 years old, you know. It seemed like a drag. He didn't seem important to me at the time. So, but that was my assignment. So I took my assignment paper and I went to see Mrs. Dudley. And when you went to see Mrs. Dudley at the library, because my grandmother had advised me, that's where you would go. She would give you an encyclopedia. That's what we had in those days. So off I go. And there's an experience before you get to see her, because you go into the old building, the old town hall. To me, it was a beautiful building. But when you first went in, the police department desk faces you. So right away you're greeted by Sergeant Ross or someone, and how are you doing or whatever. So, and then you hope that you're not wanted for anything, because you would never make it up to see Mrs. Dudley. But seriously, as you go up the stairs, the first set of stairs is creaky, very creaky. You get to the second floor and you have to make a turn and go up the third flight. Before you do, you pass the detective bureau. So you wind up, you're actually having conversations with officers that you know in the community. But when you do get up on that, eventually to the third floor, you have such a nice warm face that greets you. And she said, everybody knew everybody in those days, so she said to me, can I help you, Richard? So I proceeded to tell her about my assignment, so Winston Churchill. I have to write an essay on his life, and I really don't know where to start. So she said, that's an easy assignment, because he's such an interesting part of our history. You know, during World War II, he was so important to his own country, but very important to ours. So she proceeded to take me to down the different aisles to get, I think it was 3 books at the time that she gave me. And she really made me feel like I really want to learn about him. She was really, really that good. You know, she just had that special way. So I think my relationship with her, I look at her as a teacher, not only as a librarian. And I think I got an A on that report. But not only, it wasn't the A, but she brought me into wanting to learn more about my history. And to this day, he's one of my heroes. I love Sir Winston Churchill. And by the way, there's a new book that's coming out today about his life. The Mayor of London just introduced it on TV a little while ago this morning. So that's my first relationship. And I never ever would forget her, because she always helped anybody, not just myself. And she talked so soft that there was no reason to say you can't talk loud, you're in a library. She made you know that without even saying it. She was very influential on all of us. As far as Margaret Grazioli is concerned, my mother and Margaret Grazioli were best friends since I'm a young man. So I knew Margaret. I knew her before I even knew she was, well, I did know she was active in a librarian, and she was the librarian, I should say. But I actually knew her very well, and became very good friends with her, as you know, as years progressed. And when I was elected to the Board of Education, we were, after I was on, I think, a year or so, and we were looking for a good candidate to run, Mike Mara, the druggist, and myself. And we thought about it, and we, both of us at the same time came up with the name Margaret Grazioli, because we know how influential she was in the community, helpful to everyone. I don't think anybody had a bad word about Margaret, and she really took the baton well as Secaucus progressed as far as the library is concerned. So it was a very good relationship.
Okay, now tell them what you used to call me when I first became director.
I called Kathy Dudley because
you did.
I thought not only was that, I did it in an affectionate way because, you know, she's my Dudley, she's my wife, I love her, but she reminded me so much of Mrs. Dudley because she's always trying to help people. And I can say that even though I'm on camera and I'm her husband, but I'm very impressed with what she accomplished after being hired as just a library clerk at, I remember, $90 a week in the old library, and she progressed to where we are even today, sitting here filming me.
Okay, that's enough about me now. This is your interview. But Rich, seriously, what did you learn about the library that perhaps you weren't aware of during my years of working here?
Well, you know, it was an advantage, obviously, for me because of you working here. But I think I learned, and I wish, if I had a wish, that more people could have learned what I learned during those years. Because I learned that the library wasn't just a building where you picked up an encyclopedia or you went for some reference work. But I learned that it was bigger than that. It was much bigger than that. And I have to say a little thanks to you again, because I was more impressed how much the business community involved itself in the library. And to me, that was never that way in the past. And it should be that way, because they're very big taxpayers in our community, and they hire people. And to see them come in here and have their meetings here, public service is one. I was here one day when there was a company, it might have been Costco or one of the other professional companies in the community, came over and they used the television. Now they call it Skype on our phones, but they were having a conference, and I don't know if it was in China or if it was the other end of the United States, I'm not quite sure. But it made me realize how important the library is, not only for us, but for the business community too. And two things come to my mind that impressed me too is that there was a customer that I had at the time. His name was Tom Herring. He had a catering business, but he always aspired to be a police officer. And he was studying for the Port Authority police exam. He was here every day. He said, I can't do this home. Kathy or whoever found him a little room in this new library, and they, he could find the solace he needed to learn with nobody bothering him home, no kids, whatever, and he did well. Today he's a sergeant. And the one that really comes to my mind, there was another young fellow from Thumans working with me, young Hispanic boy, really nice kid, didn't have much at his disposal when it comes to computers or whatever, but he came here every day after college, did his homework, used the computers here that they have here, and he studied in one of those rooms too, and he's got a great engineering job today. So I think I learned a lot of that. I think I learned that the library isn't just a place to pick up a book. I think it's an intricate part of the community, and how important it is to the school system and to the business community in general.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that you learned that. You were one of the first businessmen to donate to this Friends of the Library when I started it. From the time you filled in for mayor, what was your relationship, based on having been married to me and I was now retired, what was your relationship with the new director at that time, Jennifer May?
Well, having been married to you and you being the director, it was like easy. It was very easy. We were both new kids on the block. I was up there and she was here. She had just started not too long ago. And we had a very good relationship. I would stop in from time to time on various things, and she helped. I remember, in 5 months, there's not too many events that you have, that you're part of. But one of the ones that I was part of was our annual 9/11 ceremony that we do every year. and it was an inclement day that day, and she was very helpful to help me have it in Panasonic room, and everything went well. So it was always, it just the way we treat each other, the way we always treated one another, and it was always very good and very well received on both ends. And she was good. She was very good. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad, because when I spoke with each mayor, and you are the final mayor that we're speaking to, I mentioned to them the cooperation and collaboration that we had in this town between the library and all of the other entities and vice versa. And I know that you wanted to convey to Jennifer that would be the same way we had it, and that's how you treated everyone. So we are a very special community. Are there any words you'd like to leave with the viewers as we celebrate the 80th anniversary? I mean, I know that this could be anything you want, Rich. Any thoughts? This could be 30 years from now, somebody looking at something.
Well,
it could be 2 days from now.
It's part of the other question when you ask me what I learned, and I think you never stop learning. And if I could leave any mayor, current mayor, or legislator, or whatever, with one thought, or the people in general in town with a thought, I would think that just lately in our school system, there was a little bit of a, I don't want to say controversy, but a little back and forth on, they thought that the marks, our marks weren't as high as they could be, and there's answers for that, and there's a lot of sides to that story, and I'm not dwelling on that, but I'm dwelling on the importance of something that comes to my mind because of an incident like that, is that the school system, you have to remember, closes every day at 2:30, 3 o'clock. They have computers now in the schools, but they're on them how often? The period is 45 minutes. It's over. The library is the most, it's like home. If back in the day when I worked on Winston Churchill, or today, if my grandson wants to be an engineer or a programmer or whatever, they have this facility available to them. It doesn't close at 2:30. There's a computer here for a child that can't afford one home. Or maybe there's 3 or 4 brothers home and they can't get on because somebody's on the internet or whatever. So I think the library is as important as the school system, because without the library, there's no support for the children when school is out. You have hours on Saturday, you have evenings, you have Sundays that this library is available to people. So I really think that what you really have to do is maintain it, because information changes every day. It's not like, okay, we have a library, it's all built, there's a nice new building, we have new computers, end of story. It's not that. You have to keep it up. You have to keep it up. I just bought a car. My car has technology in it that I can't believe. I had to turn my air conditioning off in the old days and turn on the heater. Now it's all computerized. It goes on and off. You just set the temperature. But somebody created this. My grandson maybe could create something in the future. So I think we have an obligation, whether you're a mayor or a councilman or a legislator or a senator or whatever, we have an obligation to make sure that the library stays up with the times, so that we can support the children when the children need support. As I said, schools are closed for the summer too, and they don't have the computer time that they could have if they come here in the evenings or whatever. So I think it's important that the funding be maintained. I was a little disappointed to hear that there was some laws changed that gave the towns discretion. In the old days, they were obligated to give a certain amount of the budget towards the library, but let's hope in their wisdom that they can continue funding it properly, so that the importance of the library never is diminished.
That's great. Thank you. That's the best message you could have left for future generations. Rich, thank you very much. And P.S., I didn't have time to cook dinner tonight.
I've learned to eat out over the past several years. Thank you for inviting me.